Our next speaker is another congressman from Arizona, state which is being spoken about often as it should today. He represents Arizona's 5th congressional district. Please welcome Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona.
I'm grateful to be with you, but I wish we didn't have to be here today. Thanks to Marianne Mendoza, Steve Runnebeck, and all the Angel families who've endured the unthinkable, because our government has done too little to protect this country, too little to protect our sovereignty, and too little to protect our borders, and not enough to protect our friends and our families. And so we have victims of crimes which ought not to have been committed. When I ran with the notion of building a border wall, along with President Trump. I have argued for 3 things for my 14 years in the Arizona State Legislature and my 2 years now in Congress. Border security, and that border security begins, quite frankly, with a border wall, passed by Congress many years ago, but never funded. The second thing is internal enforcement of our immigration laws. And the third thing is removal of incentives to come and illegally and stay illegally in this country. Those 3 things have to happen. So, a few weeks ago, I introduced a bill. It's H.R. 6657, the Fund and Complete the Border Wall Act. The purpose of that is to keep a fundamental campaign promise by this president. And you remember, he was in a pack of 17 Republicans running. He was in the middle of the pack. But when he uttered those famous words, build the wall, within a few short days, he was #1, the front runner, and it carried him all the way into office. And it is the most fundamental promise that I made and that he made. And so what my bill does, and this is important to know, it starts and completes the construction of the entire border wall. It provides relief from regulatory burdens that are going to prevent it, that some people are hanging their hat on. They're talking about building a border wall, but they're saying we can't do it because of regulatory constraints. Mine takes care of those regulatory constraints. It restores the overtime pay and other pay to Border Patrol officers that was taken away under the previous administration. It restores funding for equipment that was depleted under the previous administration. And it funds the wall and those Border Patrol issues all off the general fund, meaning non-general fund monies. And it provides it in 3 ways. We give foreign aid to countries. They have people who cross the border illegally. We're going to reduce the amount of foreign aid to those countries by $2,000 for every illegal immigrant. Right now, there are literally hundreds of billions of dollars that walk out of our economy through remittance payments or transfer payments. South of our border exceeds $40 billion a year. We're going to charge people who are sending dollars out of our country a small fee. That will provide billions of dollars to pay for this wall on an annual basis. The third thing is, you might know the I-94 form. This is when people come into our country. Right now they pay $6. Everybody pays $6 to come into our country. That doesn't cover the cost, so we're going to electronic forms. We raised that to $25, and that money goes to pay for the wall and the Border Patrol equipment and manning the Border Patrol. I've been down to the border a lot. I grew up in southern Arizona, and I can tell you, we meet with Border Patrol agents, and what they tell me is very clear. They're willing to do their job. But the people who came up with the catch and release program actually are still as senior officials in Border Patrol today. They need to go. We need to clear them out. We need to let the Border Patrol do their job. And in so doing, I'm confident that we can get this wall done. But let me explain something. This bill of mine was assigned to 7 committees in Congress. Let me explain what that means. That means that somebody doesn't want this bill to pass. I am calling upon you. I need your help and support. Thank you. We need to let our fellow congressmen and women know. We need to let our leaders know this bill needs to move sooner rather than later. And it's a way to save lives. We need to control the border for people who are victimized by border criminals, people who bring illegal drugs here, human trafficking and smuggling, people who smuggle arms in or out of this country. And you know what? It's a humanitarian thing to do as well. If you want to come into this country and you go to the ports of entry, they will treat you, if you're asking for refugee status or asylum status or anything else, they're going to treat you in the way the law requires. Like I say, I'm from Arizona. It's not as humid as this, I can tell you that. But it's a lot hotter than this, and nobody should be out there in 120-degree weather trying to sneak into this country. It's not safe for them. They need to be going to the ports of entry. You build the border wall, they're going to start moving to the ports of entry, and we can take care of them as well. Again, I express my regrets for those who are here as families of victims. You have my support. I'll continue to support you. And with that, I need your support. Get this bill passed. Let's get it done. Thank you.